All right, let's talk about a simple four-letter rule that basically runs the entire world of finance and data. Seriously, it's a principle so fundamental that getting it right can lead to a billion-dollar success, and getting it wrong, well, that can lead to total disaster. Let's dive in. So, picture this. You're gonna bake a cake. You've got the best oven money can buy, a super fancy mixer, and you are following a world-class recipe to the letter. But you have a brain fade moment and you grab the salt instead of the sugar. So what comes out of that oven? It doesn't matter how perfect your technique was, right? You've baked a complete and utter disaster.
And that warning from the kitchen, that's the perfect way to think about our topic today. Because when it comes to financial modeling, just like baking, the quality of your ingredients, well, it changes everything.
And that brings us to this core idea, GIGO. It stands for garbage in, garbage out. You know, it's a blunt way of putting it, but it's the absolute truth. The quality of the answers you get from a model can never, ever be better than the quality of the stuff you feed into it. And look, this isn't just some catchy little phrase. It is the golden rule of this entire field. It's the one concept that decides if your financial model is a powerful tool for predicting the future, or if it's just a really complicated work of fiction. So what does this actually mean in practice? It's simple, really. A financial model doesn't create truth out of thin air. It's just a processor. You give it flawed inputs, and I guarantee you it will always give you flawed outputs. And that's the real question, isn't it? If we want to avoid baking a financial disaster, we need to know what the salt looks like in our world. Where does all this garbage actually come from? As it turns out, the garbage that messes up our models usually comes from four main places, and understanding these is probably the most important step you can take toward building a model that you can actually trust. This table breaks it down perfectly. The first two are kind of like having bad ingredients. First, you've got flawed historical data. If you start with bad numbers, every single projection is going to be wrong from the get-go. Then you have unrealistic assumptions. This is where your model just becomes pure fantasy. The other two are more like a flawed recipe. Incomplete data means you're just missing a huge piece of the puzzle, like a major expense. And finally, logical errors. This is when the formula itself is broken. So even with perfect data, the result is guaranteed to be wrong. Okay, so we know what GIGO is, and we know where the garbage comes from. But what's really at stake here? I mean, these models aren't just for fun. They are the foundation for huge, real-world decisions. And when that foundation is built on sand, the whole thing is just waiting to collapse. Just think about that for a second. What really happens when a CEO or an investor makes a massive call based on a model that's just wrong? The consequences are not just numbers on a spreadsheet. They're very, very real. This is the real-world fallout from GIGO. It's what makes a company wildly overpay for an acquisition. It's why a project that looks great on paper is doomed from day one. It's how a business can look profitable right up until the day it suddenly runs out of cash. And on the other side of the coin, a bad model can make you scared to take a risk and miss out on a golden opportunity. We're not talking about small mistakes here. These are the kinds of errors that can define a company's future. Okay, so that's the problem. It's a good deal, but here's the good news. The solution isn't some magical piece of software. It's about developing a mindset, a set of habits that make sure you're being a careful, diligent baker, not a careless one. So here it is. This is your toolkit for keeping your models clean. It all starts with number one. Question everything. Where did this number come from? Is it reliable? Then you have to document your assumptions so everyone knows your logic. From there, you validate your data, check it against other sources, then you test it. What happens if our sales are 10% lower? And wrapping all of this is a habit of relentless auditing, just constantly checking your own work for mistakes. I love this metaphor. A financial model is not a crystal ball. It can't tell you the future. All it is a mirror. It just takes your own understanding, your biases, and your assumptions and reflects them back at you in the language of numbers. And that means the reflection can only be as clear as your own thinking. And that leaves us with one last really powerful question to ask yourself every single time you build or even just look at a financial model. Is this thing a clear mirror showing you a logical, well-researched version of reality? Or is it a mirage showing you a beautiful picture that's just going to vanish into thin air the second you try to reach for it? The choice in the end always comes down to the quality of what you put in.